Why did you do that?
You appeared to need it.
When I decided to do the show, when they decided they wanted me, and then I had to decide that whether I was going to do it, I really got scared. And I think right before the final audition, where it was going to be a fait accompli that I was either going to do it or I wasn't, I called my agent and said, I'm not going to do this. And he said, why not? And I said, I don't think so. And he said, do the pilot. If you don't like it, I'll get you out of it. I'm sure the studio loves that kind of attitude, but that's what he said. And I thought, well, I'll do the pilot because I needed some dough, and if I didn't like it, I would get out.
I'd seen Brent on Broadway. I'd seen him singing. I'd seen him on a sitcom where he played this strange kind of Appalachian country kooky guy. He's a comedian, and he is a singer, and he can do just about anything.
I did the pilot, and there were all these folks that I worked with, and I thought, gee, these guys are good, this is kind of fun. Production values were good, and had a really good time doing it, and I thought, all right, well, I'll do it for the year that I think it was sold for a year in the beginning, and I thought, I'll do it for the year. It'll never last beyond that. You can't redo Star Trek. That's ridiculous. It'll be terrible, and people will hate it, and I'll be out in a year, and I'll have paid all my bills off.
He couldn't speak with any contractions, and that was always fun in the beginning because writers would mistakenly put them in, and Brent would mistakenly use them even when they weren't in. And it was a very delicate balance. Was he going to play it in the classic robot form? Was he going to be totally human?
I am the culmination of one man's dream. This is not ego or vanity, but when Dr. Sung created me, he added to the substance of the universe. If by your experiments I am destroyed, something unique, something wonderful will be lost. I cannot permit that.
I remember Bob Justman saying to me early on, your life is going to change completely. And to a degree, that's true, but only to a degree. I mean, the biggest change for me is that on a monthly level, I didn't worry about paying my rent. And that's a huge deal for an actor. And it was huge for me. I wasn't even going to think about it anymore. And that was really amazing. Incredible luxury that was afforded me.
I think Data was a very special character to Gene because he was going to be sort of take the place of Spock. He was going to be our barometer, our mirror on humanity. An android who wished he was human.
I think the initial idea with Data, from Gene Roddenberry's perspective, since he really created Data, was that he'd be a blank tablet in the beginning. But he was a learning, growing machine, and that by virtue of being amongst these people and amongst his humanity for as long as we hoped he would be, which was initially 6 years, that he would grow exponentially through the years. And I think that's exactly what happened.
He modeled the character a little bit after Pinocchio, which was Gene's idea as well, and was an element that's discussed in the pilot episode. Pinocchio being a boy made out of wood who wanted nothing more than to be human. And Brent brought an innocence and a humor to that was extraordinary.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
I am superior, sir, in many ways. But I would gladly give it up to be human.
Nice to meet you, Pinocchio.
I think different writers who came aboard kind of had their fun adding little pieces to the puzzle of who Data was. And also Gene had established that Data had a huge thirst for understanding humanity, the complexity of humanity and the idiosyncrasies of humanity. And so we had a lot of fun through the years trying out different aspects of humanity.
Brent has a different challenge. He has an android, a guy without emotion, that you've taken the emotion away from the actor, and what does he have to play with? He has this left. Leonard Nimoy sort of faced a similar sort of challenge, but it was different. It was a very different, almost brooding presence to Spock, and it was an internal fight. that was, there beneath the surface of human emotion and Vulcan stoicism. And Data's Pinocchio, and Data wants emotion so bad, but can never taste it. And so his challenge was always to kind of bring that forward, and he was wonderful. He was great.
You ever seen a solar probe with this kind of configuration?
No, Geordi, I have not. Have you?
No, I have not. It is most unusual.
The success of the movies is really, dependent on capitalizing on the relationships that are so, indelibly established in the series. And I think one of the strong dynamics is the Data-Geordi dynamic. I think they are a great model for friendship, for what that looks and feels like. Especially given that, one is blind and the other is an android. In the audition process, Gene had written some sides, and it was a shame that they were never, and that idea was never really pursued. But in those audition sides, Data and Geordi, when they first met each other, recognized something in each other that was the initiating spark that got them together. Because, and I think it was Data that said at some point in the scene, my brain and your eyes, they both perceive the world exactly as they are. And so Data and Geordi decided to form a team, and they called themselves the Perceivers. And I thought that was great. I thought that was brilliant. And I thought it was a real shame that they never really pursued that, because that's absolutely true. That's absolutely brilliant, and a brilliant expression of their friendship. Data's brain and Geordi's eyes don't have the luxury of entertaining artifice of any kind. They are forced by their very nature to experience the world exactly as it is, without the coloration of emotion or history. And it's a very unique way to look at the world. And in that unique perception, they're bound together.
A man goes to a store to buy some kidneys.
Oh, no.
He says to the shopkeeper, "I'd like a pound of kiddlies, please." The shopkeeper says, "You mean kidneys, don't you?" The man says, "I said kiddlies. Diddle I?"
Gene developed a backstory about who this guy was and how unique he was. He was created by a human doctor in some far-off land, and that they pretty much threw the mold away. When he was constructed, we find out later that he's got this evil brother named Lore.
Lore. Looks like we have ourselves a family reunion.
That's a pain playing opposite yourself, because even though you're getting to work with your favorite actor, it is the technical thing that's difficult. It's time-consuming beyond belief. Motion control work is really difficult and takes forever. There's a certain part of it I enjoy. It's like it's not like even being in a video game. It's like you are the video game. And having to imagine where you are at all times, because you're not there when you're playing one side or the other, is a real challenge. And also to get the timing right, because the camera move has already been established by a computer. You have to do it exactly the same every time, and it's really difficult.